Welcome to Fusion Grain Cooking. In today's show, we're talking about oats. We're going to be doing a wonderful oatmeal cookie. How can you do a show without doing oatmeal cookies when you're talking about oats? And then we're doing a fabulous pineapple oat salad and an excellent breakfast cereal. Stick around and learn all about oats. Welcome to Fusion Grain Cooking, where we take the foods you eat every day and fuse them with grains to make food that not only tastes great, but is good for you. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite grains, and I think America's favorite grain, oats. Oats are a wonderful grain. You hear a lot about how they lower serum cholesterol and how healthy they are for you. Oats are just packed with nutrition and that nice buttery flavor, those good fats and stuff that we need that are in oats. Oats are just a great way to start the day. The best, most nutritious oat is the oat groat. The oat groat is how it looks before they make it into oatmeal. It's the whole entire oat with everything intact. And it's absolutely great to cook with. You can cook it like rice, and it's great to add to different things, to breads, to cereals, to baked goods. It's wonderful. Optimal nutrition is here because once you crack the grain, it starts to lose nutrition, and here the oat is in its complete whole form. The next nutritious one would be called Scottish oatmeal or still cut oats. It's where they take the oat groat and they crack it. Now, Scottish oatmeal or Irish oatmeal, that's just what it is. And in America, we call it steel cut oat. They cut it with steel blades, and it's just that whole oat groat cut. And then the third one, and there's even a couple more under that, but the third one is the rolled oat. It's where they steam the groat and they roll it. And then the one under that would be quick oats, is where they steam it, roll it, and crack it into smaller pieces. And then the one you should never eat is the instant oatmeal. They've taken everything out of it to make it to where it's done instantly. So optimal nutrition is in the oat groat. You're going to love what we do with oats in today's show. The first thing we're going to do today with these wonderful oats is we're going to make an oat roll. I love putting oats in dinner rolls because it just makes them light and fluffy and so flavorful. Now, we're going to put two different kinds of oats in our bread today. We're going to put the whole grain oat ground into flour. So we have a wonderful oat flour here that we're going to add. Not large amounts, because you really need, the majority of the flour needs to be wheat or spelt or white flour, but we're going to put a portion of this in there to add nutrition to the roll and flavor. And then we're going to actually put some rolled oats in there to give it a little bit more texture. And another idea that you could do that we're not going to do today, but you could actually take the leftover breakfast cereal when you have oatmeal and there's a little bit left over, save it in the refrigerator if you're not going to make rolls right away, and then you can add that to your bread too and make wonderful rolls with that leftover oatmeal cereal. So, as always, for our bread we have hot water, and we're going to put some hot water in our mixer. Probably about 2 cups of hot water. Okay? And then to the hot water, we're going to add some melted butter. And I like butter when I'm doing rolls because it just gives them a more buttery flavor. And then we're going to sweeten it up with some of the zagave. And zagave is a great sweetener of choice to put in rolls because it's high in inulin and it helps the bread rise better. A little bit of salt. And then we have some whole grain ground flour here. And this is an actual spelt. You could use whole wheat or spelt. We're going to put that in there. And we're going to put our oat flour in there. And that oat flour is beautiful. And we're going to talk in a couple minutes about more uses for oat flour. And then we're going to put some oats, rolled oats. So you could do quick oats if you wanted in there too. Okay, and then on the top of that, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to put our yeast. And I always add my yeast last, just in case my water is too hot. We're going to put the yeast right on the top. And then we're going to turn it on. Now, I have a lot of nutrition already in the bowl. I have whole grain spelt flour, oats and oat flour, so I'm going to finish it off with a little bit of white flour that's going to give my roll a little bit of a boost. And I just want to let you know, I'm not going to let the dough completely pull away from the sides. There's a saying that goes, the stickier the dough, the lighter the roll. So we want to leave that dough a little bit sticky because the end result will mean we'll have a lighter, fluffier roll. And that is really a secret of making whole grain rolls, leaving that dough light and sticky. So now we're going to start adding the white flour. And normally I would use the Bosch with the lid on it, but I do it for purposes so you can see exactly what's going on inside the bowl. Now I'm watching that, and I want it to stay a little bit sticky, but I don't want it to be mushy. And you can see how it's trying to pull away, but not quite. So I'm going to add just maybe 2 more tablespoons, and then I'm going to let it go. There you go. That's just a little bit sticky. That's what we want. Now we're going to let this knead for 6 minutes, and then we're going to form some beautiful rolls. Now we're going to take the dough that is mixed for 6 minutes, and we're going to remove it from the bowl and form our rolls. The first thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of oil on the counter, rub the oil in. It serves 2 purposes. It keeps the dough from sticking to the counter and to my hand. So I'm going to pull this dough out here, and it's just a little bit sticky, but sticky is good when you're doing rolls. Remember, the stickier the dough, the lighter the roll. So we have that nice dough out. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful texture. There we go. That's just lovely. So now we're going to form some rolls. I'm going to divide this in half because I'm going to do 2 different kinds of rolls. I'm going to set this off to the side here, and I'm going to take this and make sure there's plenty of oil underneath because I don't want it to stick to the counter. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to roll the dough out into a circle. It's a little harder to roll when there's oil under there, but it's worth that effort. Now we want to roll this out into a big circle as thin as we can get it here. Beautiful. And you can see the beautiful texture of the grains in there, the oats, the oat flour, the whole grain spelt flour. Beautiful texture. So now we're going to take a little pizza cutter that I have right here, and we're going to cut this like a pizza. We're just going to slice it like we would a pizza. And do it again. There we go. And then we have a pan here, and we're going to take our pan and we're going to spray it with a non-stick spray. And we're going to take these and we're going to start from the outside and roll in. And because of the oat flour there, these are going to be a very tender roll, and we're going to set these on the pan. And they're kind of like a croissant roll. And you know what's really funny about making dinner rolls? You change the shape and it changes the flavor for some reason. There you go. Aren't those so pretty? And I love the fill of this dough. It just feels beautiful. And you know, I found that just an extra moment like this to give a different shape really adds a lot to what you're doing. So many times we eat the same shaped roll all the time, and it's kind of fun to have something with a little bit different shape. Now I'm going to take the rest of the dough, and I'm just going to put a little bit of oil on the top of it to make it kind of oily, and I'm just going to take and just squeeze up from the bottom and get a nice perfectly round little roll. It's just a squeeze with your hand, and depending on the size of your hand will depend on the size of the rolls. But don't worry, big or little, it doesn't matter. These look just great. Now, when you place them on the pan, it's important how you place the rolls. The closer together they are, they will grow and roll up. they will grow together and grow up. If you place them far apart, they'll grow out and be a little bit harder. So if you want a harder roll, leave a lot of space between them on the pan. If you want a softer, more tender roll, put them close together on the pan. There we go. We have our rolls there. And these are going to bake in about the same amount of time, so I'm not worried about having those there with these. It's going to be just about the same amount of time. Now in here I have an egg whisked up with a fork. Now if you want a light, glossy coat, you use an egg white. If you want a darker coat, use the whole egg. And we want a darker coat. So we're going to take this and brush this over the top of the roll. This does two things. It makes it shiny, and it acts like glue to keep the oats on that we're going to sprinkle on the top of it next. There we go. Now we're going to take our oats, and we're just going to sprinkle these a little bit on the top here. And this egg wash causes that to stick so it doesn't fall off right away when they come out of the oven. Now we're going to let these rise until they're double, and we're going to bake them in a hot oven until they're a nice golden brown. When we come back, we're going to make some wonderful whole grain oatmeal cookies. Now we're going to make some fabulous whole grain, 100% whole grain oat flour cookies. Now, the Bosch is great for making bread, but it does great things with cookies too. So we have all of our ingredients assembled here. Of course, we have our fresh ground oat flour, and it's how you do that is you take the whole oat groat and run it through your mill, and it makes this absolutely beautiful oat flour that's just so fine and powdery. Now, if you've ever had an oatmeal cookie, they're great, but when you use 100% oat flour, they're even better. You just have that wonderful flavor of the oatmeal. And you know, something I've learned about making cookies, I can hardly eat a white flour cookie anymore after using the whole grains because they taste pasty. When you get used to cooking with these grains, they have a nutty, wonderful flavor. Not only does it taste good in your mouth, psychologically it's better too because you realize you're eating a cookie, but it's a little bit healthier. So we're going to go ahead and add our ingredients. The first thing we're going to do is we have some butter. Now you can substitute butter for coconut oil if you would like. Sometimes I do half and half. And then we're going to cream together our butter with some sugar. And I'm using 100% organic brown sugar. Now, organic brown sugar is a sugar that hasn't been processed very much. The more they process it, the whiter it gets. And this is the least processed of the sugars that you can get. And then we're just going to put in a splash of vanilla. And then we're going to add a couple eggs. And we're going to cream all that together for just briefly. Beautiful. You can see how nice and creamy that's getting. Fabulous. And now we're going to add the remainder of the ingredients. We're going to put in a cup of whole oatmeal. And then we're going to add 3 cups of oat flour, fresh ground oat flour. Some soda and some salt. And we're going to mix this up. Now, sometimes when you're using a whole grain flour, you have to use a little bit more than what the recipe would call for. And you can just tell by looking at the batter. If it's not pulling away from the sides very well, even a cookie batter should kind of pull away. If it's not pulling away from the sides very well, it looks really sticky, chances are you're going to need to add more flour. If you don't, you're going to end up with pancakes on your cookie tray instead of cookies. So we're going to add, I'm looking at this and it looks a little bit soft, so I'm going to add about a half a cup more flour, and then I'm going to mix that up in there. Beautiful. The difference is noticeable right away. Now I'm going to put in some walnuts and chocolate chips. Beautiful. And now we're going to turn this on, pulse it, mix it up. There we go. Oh, that is beautiful. And you can see how the cookies are actually moving away from the side of the bowl. So I know because they're doing that they're going to probably be perfect. Now I'm going to take the cookies, the cookie batter, and I'm going to scoop it out on a parchment-lined cookie pan or jelly roll pan. Let me just tell you a little trick about making cookies. If you go to bake your cookie, I always bake one cookie first just to see what happens when I'm trying out a new recipe. And that's just a really good hint because altitude and stuff can affect how the cookie turns out. If it's a rainy day and there's a lot of moisture in there, that can affect it too. So always bake one cookie. And this is what happens. If you pull the one cookie out of the oven and it's flat like a pancake, just spread out all over, you know you need a little more flour, and it's a simple thing to go and just add some flour to the bowl. Now if you pull it out and it's still in the same shape that it is when you put it in, it means you have too much flour. Well, it's kind of hard to take the flour out, so all you have to do is lightly wet your hand, and then take your hand and press it on top of the cookie batter. The one that's cooked is gone. You're going to have to throw it away. But your other batter, just press it flat with a moistened hand, and they will bake perfectly. That really saves you from having to throw away a lot of cookies. So always bake one first, and then you know. So I'm going to go ahead and scoop these out, and then we're going to bake them in a 325 degree convection oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. Now it's time for the Chef Brad tip of the day. Today I'd like to take a moment and talk about fiber. You know, there's a lot of talk about fiber and about how important fiber is in our bodies and how it lowers serum cholesterol. And there's a lot of talk with oats. And I think the reason oats gets all the publicity is it's been around a long time. But all the grains do exactly what oatmeal will do. The high fiber lowers the cholesterol in our body. Also, another really important tip about fiber is when you eat a diet high in fiber, you make better choices with the other foods you eat. When you eat, for example, a breakfast high in fiber, it stays in your stomach longer because it takes the body longer to burn it. It does two things. It keeps you full, it ups your metabolism, and you make better choices because you don't get hungry within 30 minutes and start binging on foods that you shouldn't eat. So a diet high in fiber is so important for good health and nutrition. And now we're going to take some of the oat groats. That's the oat in its full shape, and we're going to toast it and make a wonderful toasted oatmeal cereal for breakfast. And we're using a stovetop pressure cooker this time. I love a good stovetop pressure cooker. They're great for cooking hot cereals for breakfast in the morning. So we're going to turn this on, and we're going to take our oat groats, and we're going to put them in here. And it's about 2 cups of oat groats. And what we're going to do is we're going to toast the oat groats around. And we're going to, until you smell it get kind of nice and toasty. So we're just going to stir these around until it gets nice and toasty. And then we're going to add water, put the lid on, and pressure it for 6 minutes. Remember, oat groats cook like white rice very, very quickly. And if you cook them too long, they're going to become mushy. We want them to have just a little bit of texture to be really nice for a breakfast cereal. And stirring is just to keep them from burning. If you keep them moving around, they won't burn. You can also just shake them in the pan like this, move it up and shake it once they get going, but it's going to take a minute for it to warm up. Let me just explain a little bit about this pressure cooker. This is a BRK. It's a brand out of Germany that's great. The thing I like about it is you put the lid on, no matter where you put the lid, it's the right place, and then you push it and it locks in place. Once the pressure's up, it pops up. And you adjust the pressure right here. We want to go full pressure on this one. And then once this pops up, you adjust your heat to low, and it will cook high on low pressure for 6 minutes is all we want. And then with this, to drop the pressure, we can pick this up, run cold water on, and it drops the pressure immediately. Let's take a look at our grains here. See how they're doing. Just give them another minute for toasting. Now, once they get toasted, you can see they're starting to turn a golden brown. We're going to take and pour our water in. It's nice and hot. The pan is nice and hot, which is going to only help it cook faster. Just a little bit of salt in there. We're going to put our pressure cooker lid on. Place the lid on. Pressure already is going to jump up really quickly. And we're going to open this up in a few minutes when we come back and try that out. And we're going to be throwing together an absolutely wonderful oat groat salad. Welcome back. Our cereal is done. Our wonderful oat groat cereal is ready to go. I just want you to look at that. It's absolutely beautiful. The oat groats are cooked perfectly. And now we're just going to finish it off with, of course, my favorite ingredient, coconut oil. We're just going to add a wonderful flavor to that. And we're going to grate some fresh nutmeg over the top of this cereal. And we're using a whole nutmeg. We're not going to use the whole nutmeg, we're using a whole nutmeg. We're going to use half of the whole nutmeg. Oh, that smells so good. Mix that up in there with the oil. And this is just oatmeal as it was meant to be. Oh, it smells great. And then we're going to sweeten it up with a little bit of zagave. And breakfast is ready. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now we have oat groats that we've already cooked and chilled down. And we're going to use those for a salad. So you could really do this and leftover, chill it down, and you could use it in a salad. So we're going to make a wonderful pineapple oat groat salad next. We have our fresh pineapple here that's been peeled and cored. And now we're just going to cut it into pieces. And this is a very simple salad, just a few ingredients. And then to the pineapple, we're going to add some fresh mint. Now I have these walnuts here. I'm going to add those to the cereal. There you go. Now it's perfection. Okay, and then we're going to take some of this fresh mint and we're just going to chop this, loosely chop it up. And add that to that. And then some craisins for some color. Some slivered almonds. And of course, the oat groats that have been cooked and chilled. And we're just going to take these and mix them on there. The texture is going to be great. The pineapple with the soft oats and the mint's just going to bring out all the freshness in that. Mint is a great thing to grow in your garden. With a lot of water, it flourishes and takes over. So you want to make sure you plant it somewhere where it can't take over everything. But it's great to have, to just grab a piece of it and toss it in. Now for our dressing, very simple. We're going to use a little bit of pumpkin oil over the top. We're just going to drizzle that over the top of it. Pumpkin oil has a rich flavor to it. And then just a splash of a white balsamic vinegar. Just a simple, simple dressing of that. If you wanted, you could put just a drizzle of zagave over the top to bring out the fresh fruit flavor of the pineapple. And we're going to stir this up. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful oat groat pineapple fruit salad. So we have our beautiful salad here, our hot cereal that just looks fabulous. And of course, the rolls have come out of the oven. These are our oat rolls. They're absolutely beautiful. Now with all the oat flour there, they are going to have a little bit different texture than a regular yeasted roll. They're going to rise just a little bit differently, but the flavor is going to be fabulous. And that's what we want. They're going to be light and airy with a lot of flavor. And the cookies, oh my goodness, are they ever delicious. The brown sugar gave them a nice brown look, but the flavor is just, I call it uncontrollable because you just want to eat them until you can't stop. You will never want to eat an oatmeal cookie again without 100% oat flour. You have all that nutrition and more important than that, all that flavor. I just need to see how some of this salad tastes. So I'm just going to take a quick taste of this pineapple oat groat salad. That is just so pretty. Oh. The fresh mint and pineapple are a perfect combination. And our breakfast cereal with the walnuts in there, delicious. Absolutely wonderful. We've taken America's most popular grain and turned it into some pretty amazing food. We hope that you take the time to try out oat groats in your home when you're cooking with grains. Thank you so much for joining us on Fusion Grain Cooking.